Okay, episode 18 of season 2 of Vinland Saga should come with a warning. Spoiler alert for this review and recap. Whew, it's hard to even remember how the episode started. Golly. Let's go back to the beginning. So, Canute is sailing toward Kettle's farm. He's about 2 or 3 days away. Wind is going. He's talking to, oh God, I can't remember his second in command. He's talking to his military leader. God, I can't remember the guy's name. He's been here from the beginning. He's been in all the episodes almost. Well, not all of them, but he's been around since season 1. But anyway, they're just discussing going to Kettle's farm and taking over. And of course, Knute's basically like, it'd be better if they just surrendered. But if we got to fight them, we'll take them out, And as he's talking, you hear laughing. You look down in the corner, and there's his dad's severed head giggling. So that's still happening. I guess Canute's still slowly losing his mind. Anyway, going back to the farm, Kettle and Thorgil arrive. First, we only see Thorgil. Thorgil gets there, and nobody sees Kettle. Thorgil takes this barrel and rolls it and throws the barrel, and the barrel rolls and then crashes, and Kettle comes out of it. Kettle was hiding the barrel. I was like, well, he can't be throwing the barrel his father's in, right? He was throwing the barrel his father's in. Okay. So there's that. So for a minute, Kettle is disheveled and out of it. He's been hiding in this barrel, and then his son rolls it and it crashes, and so he's out of it. He's in a bad place, physically, and mentally. So anyway, the next thing we see, I believe, is you see Einar and Thorfinn tied up. So they've been tied up for their role in Gandhar's and Hyde's attempted escape. So, we're still wondering at the end of the last episode, Hyde was being surrounded by horsemen. Gandhar was dead. He had died in her lap. So, we don't know what happened with her yet. But we see Einar and Thorfinn talking. And they have a really interesting conversation. This show is such either a contradiction or a masterful class in how to show your whoever the writers are their true heart, because this is probably the most violent thing I've ever seen, especially a TV show. By far, it's the most violent TV show I've ever watched. And yet, this show is about peace. It really is. It's really about peace. And Thorfinn is talking about how he fought Snake, and Einar even mentions, hey, you vowed to not attack anyone, and you broke your vow, because he did hit Snake. And I thought about that myself when they were fighting. And Snake was fine. I guess, Gandhar didn't choke him to death, or even nearly to death, because he's walking around fine, as we'll talk about in a little bit. Fine, and still upset about everything that happened. Anyway, Thorfinn is trying to figure out what his first move should have been versus fighting Snake, or if there's another way he could handle things. And he said something he said before in the show that I really take to heart. He said, no one deserves to be hurt. No one in the world deserves to be hurt. And I actually kind of believe that. I like that ethos. Anyway, cut from them and Leif, who drops, Einar and Thorgil and their people off. First of all, Thorgil, when he comes to land, he is mentioning that, hey, we're about to go to Warrior Wall. And he's excited about it, He's very much like Thorkel. He's like, woo, yeah, it's about to be a fight. It's going to be good. And he's like, everybody get ready. They're a couple of days away. We got to get ready for this. And he's telling Omar, his brother, the same thing. He tells Omar, he's like, well, this is your first battle, and since our foes are formidable, it might be your last battle. And and he's like, aren't you excited? And Omar's freaked out, like, a normal human being would be, who's not a bloodthirsty, crazed warrior. Anyway, Leif is talking to Pater, I think his name is, and which is Kettle's right-hand man. And Pater asks him if he is willing to purchase Einar and Arnheid, as well as Thorfinn, Kettle told Leif that he could have Thorfinn for free. So, basically Leif is like, sure, why not? I can do that, So, sorry, I'm just having issues with my camera today. So that conversation happened, and I think the next thing we see is Arnheid. I forgot. This part was great. Kettle comes and sees his wife, who we get to see for the first time. That part was hilarious. Because there, she's like, oh, you're back. Okay. She's a wretched, looks like a bitter old woman, and, he's stumbling around looking for Arnheid, and he's like, oh, you're a horse slave, and, you're like, oh, so she knows what's going on. Okay. So they have that's their relationship or whatever. And, she's talking bad about Arnheid, calls her out of her name and said she had her tied up. And she explains to Kettle everything that's happened, with Gendar and Arnheid escaping. And Kettle is devastated and angry because he's like, she tried to escape. In his mind, he can't understand it because even the wife talks about how well he treated her. And then he goes looking for Arnheid where she is because the wife told Kettle where Arnheid is tied up. So, cut to Arnheid and you see her being guarded by this guy. And this show gets raw. I guess they took... So there's an ethos with writing that you create the most likable protagonist you can possibly create, and then you beat the hell out of them. And that creates a great story. Well, Arnheid is this nice, sweet, innocent, wonderful woman that everybody loves. They really do. They go overboard showing how nice and sweet and gentle and kind she is to everyone. She takes care of everybody. She looks after everybody. She is so sweet and kind. If you watch this show and you don't like Arnheid, you have no soul. Okay? So, she's tied up. You're already feeling bad for her. The guy who ties her up basically is talking about wanting to rape her. He's talking crap about what he would do to her if he could. If she wasn't Master's woman or whatever, slave or whatever. I'm talking like he gets raw. Talking about what he would do to her and his boys would do to her. I'm like, oh my God. So then Kettle comes in. And the slave, he's on her. Like, he's not on top of her, but, he's next to her, rubbing her leg. And I want to say it looked like he was unbuckling his belt because when he got back up, he had buckled his belt up. So I don't know if he was getting ready to rape her or what, but this is only the beginning of Arnheid's sorrows. So Kettle comes in. He got this big rod in his hand, a stick like the one he used to beat the kids that had stolen from them. When they basically conned him into giving them 10 licks a few episodes ago. And he felt bad about it. Well, this was not that situation. He comes in, runs that guy off. He's like, what the hell are you doing? Get out of here. The kid buckles his belt and takes off because he's, terrified Master's going to get to him because they know what Arnheid means to him. Anyway, to Kettle. Anyway, Kettle comes in, asks Arnheid why she tried to run and stuff. Then he hits her. He hits her pretty good. And she's, writhing in pain. And then he talks to her for a little bit more, talks about his dignity or something. Somebody taking his dignity, which I didn't quite understand how Arnheid took his dignity by leaving. But he's a slave owner, so his mentality is weird. So he jabs her with the stick in her stomach really hard. And then, she starts writhing again and she starts begging. It's like, please, please forgive me, but I have a baby. I'm carrying a baby. And, he's like, whose baby is? He's like, it's yours, I swear. I'm sorry, please, please believe me. And he's basically like, how can I believe you when you just tried to escape? And then he starts wailing on her. And I got to tell you, I didn't see it. I had to close my eyes. I couldn't watch it. It was, just listening to it was vicious. If I could have fast forwarded it, I would have. But he beats her for a while and beats her unconscious. And then finally, he's continuing to beat her and he's not stopping. And he goes back to swing and hit her, and Snake grabs the other side of the rod and stops him. So, and Snake tells him, like, look, she's yours. You can kill her if you want to, but, what she did, she deserves a beating, according to Snake. Okay? What you did, I'm not saying that, but what she did, she deserved to be beat, but you're about to give her the death penalty, and she's your slave, so you can kill her if you want to. And he tells him, like, look, I'll let go of the end of this rod if you want to kill her, if you're okay with that. And then Kettle actually lets go of the rod. So Kettle turns around and walks away without the rod. With Arnhide laying there unconscious, Pater's checking after her. Leif is there, and the other Thorfinn, Leif's other son that he named after Thorfinn. And they're watching this whole scene. As Kettle walks away, Leif calls out to him and asks about paying to free the slaves. And he's like, if you don't want her, I'll take her. And Kettle's like, you can have Einar, Thorfinn, take him, but Arnhide's mine. And he's like, she's my property. I'm not selling her to anybody. So anyway, he walks off and he storms off past Thorgil, who's trying to tell him we need to get ready for battle, and he's not talking, he's not listening to anybody. And he goes in his trunk and gets a sword out, and he's like, nobody's gonna, take my dignity. He's going on about dignity again. And he's like, even if I have to, go after, and go after Canute myself. So he gets his sword out, and I guess he's ready for war. And it ends with, Arnhide, Pater, takes Arnhide, patches her up, and which Kettle told him to do, and put her in a bed, and she's still unconscious. And what's his name? Einar comes to her side and talks to her. Jorah just sees her and starts crying. And Pater's like, she's been unconscious for a while. I don't know if she's gonna make it. And it ends with everybody just kind of watching her. Thorfinn and Einar there, and Einar is just a mess, upset about it. And yeah, I'm like, I didn't see it coming. With the beating he gave her, I have seen limbs get chopped off in this episode, in this show. Thorfinn's ear got chopped off. Thorkel lost a couple of fingers. I've seen heads chopped off, bodies split open. Nothing made me feel like the beating that Kettle gave Arnhide. That beating, that messed me up. By the time the episode ended, I was like, oh, the episode's over. Like, usually I'm tracking pretty good about how long the show is. Just like this review. This is the longest review I've done. I'm a mess. I'm seeing that. Wow. He beat the ever-loving crap out of Arnhide. And I'm curious if she's going to live. I thought she was going to die right there, to be honest. I'm like, I don't see how she could have possibly survived that beating, because he was not hitting her like somebody showing her restraint or somebody just giving licks. He was hauling and wailing on her like somebody who was angry. And he's a big dude, so we'll see what happens. But, it's curious that this show is so vicious, but it preaches peace and the fact that nobody deserves to be hurt. It's almost like the contrast is there on purpose. I would love to talk to the person who came up with Vinland Saga, because it's like the contrast is there on purpose. The viciousness of the show is there to make the point that nobody should ever have to deal with viciousness. It's a really interesting way it's being presented. And enjoy might be a strong word after the beating. Kettle just gave Arnhide, because, man, it creeped me out. But as far as the way the show is being presented, it's really thought-provoking. Let me go ahead and stop. This is almost a 15-minute review. Woo! Episode 19 is next.